The Jewel Adventure Deluxe Animal Editions.
Yes, the most unwieldy title ever.
So these beautiful horses are modeled after the Sassy 16s.
Yeah, from Fashion Star Phillies. So Sunstar shares a mold with the Sassy 16 Justine and Ariel, while
Ariel!
Moondance, yes, Ariel, your favorite, and hilariously, Moondance shares a mold with the horse named Fallon in the Sassy 16s, and also the horse named Janelle.
And as we've talked about before, that's probably one of the reasons why they chose Fallon as the name instead of Alex, was because it was already trademarked somewhere in the Kenner catalog.
Right. You know, companies definitely do this. You can see this when Mattel did Monster High. They made a character named Spectra, and which is interesting because, you know, once upon a time in the 80s, they had a doll line called Spectra and the Shimmerons.
Right. So it was obviously
again,
just something
or
that
like
was trademarked.
Claudine from Monster High shares a name with the cat from She-Ra, Claudine.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yeah, there's always a lot of reuse of names.
Right.
Among
So
toy
let's
companies.
talk about Sunstar then. So
Yeah.
Sunstar, now there are a few obvious things that are a little bit different, and I think probably the main thing that most of the collectors of the Joyrider dolls always have to bring up are the fact that the horses don't have manes. So
Right.
that's one of the main things.
The
and so
main things.
so looking at Sunstar, this scroll work that's going on the top of the head, that's definitely not the way that it is in the show. So hashtag no screen accuracy on this one.
No. And it bugged me so much as a child. You know, Sunstar has these curly Q sort of mane hair, and here's this thing with this very rigid filigree that looks like a show horse from 1832.
I was going to say she stepped out of Vegas almost.
Exactly.
But would you have rather her have, if rooted hair is too expensive on a toy, would you rather have had her maybe molded, like a molded mane on top and then had hair as a tail?
Yeah, I think I would have actually preferred that.
Okay. I wonder what the rest of the fans think.
Yeah, I mean, it could look like a really bad wig cap if it wasn't done well, but...
Right. So looking at the rest of the horse, I mean, for the most part, she's on model. I mean, she has, her white color. She has her golden horn. She has her blonde hair. She has some rump jewels, but then she also has this two-tone legs. So her legs and her muzzle are clear plastic to, I guess, as Greg said it, to emulate the running on the magic. Although I never got that as a kid.
No, I think, yeah, he was supposed to be like, she's running in the wild magic. And I'm like, but no, it's just the wrong
Right?
color.
It's like, I never got that as a child. I thought it was supposed to just make them look more,
fancy.
Deluxe. Yes. And in which case it did. It did.
Yeah,
So,
no, it totally does. And I remember Greg has talked about that it was an easy way to get more sort of value out of the paint was to mold them in that clear plastic and then spray over it. Because it just gave you more features.
Right. But I was going to say, if you think about it, it's also a little bit less paint that you have to spread on the bottom of their legs.
That's
and
true.
their muzzle. So looking at the character, if you looked at her out of jewel armor, Sunstar has a very basic gold and light pink harness with this pink flower that the sunstone sits in. But then once she is transformed into jewel armor, suddenly there's this very ornate collar, and I cannot imagine drawing this every single frame. I mean, this is insane.
There's so much going on when you look at it. It's like jewels holding up tapestries in between them.
Right, and then there's little jewels on top of those tapestries.
Right.
And, you look at the collar that's on the Sunstar doll and you think, oh, that's very ornate. But then you look at some of these artwork, like from Song of the Rainbow, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's like legitimately how the animators drew it.
Right, like that's actually how it looks.
Right. And the same thing with the scroll work on the saddle. The bottom part of the saddle on the toy is almost 100% screen accurate as to what it looks like in the show as well. There's the little scroll work, and then even to the design of the saddle itself, all of that was drawn frame by frame in the show.
I know, it's always fascinating to me because it really is quite a unique and complicated design, especially for a 1990s girls cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's wonderful to see that translated really accurately.
And we were talking about the colors. Now, the gold and the pink on the doll work really well, but in the show, it's actually not screen accurate. The collar is supposed to be gold, so that's correct. But then they do have like the little golden and the pink designs on the collar that's not seen on the toy. And then on the saddle on the doll, the saddle is this pretty sparkly pink, but in the show, for the most part, it's all just a gold color. It's different color golds,
right?
But it's pretty much all just that golden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty much all that golden color. But then there was a little bit of highlights of like a pinkish color. So it's almost as if it was reversed from what you see on the toy. It's like there's a little bit of pink, whereas in the toy, it's mostly pink and gold. It should be reversed.
Right.
But I like it this way. It's pretty.
No, it definitely is. And it totally works with the color scheme of the toy.
Right.
Now, when you look at her jewel on the toy, I think as children we always thought, oh, the one with the gold background behind the jewel is the prettier and more accurate one. But really, no, it's a pink color in the show.
Right. But I think I think the metallic colors now, if you don't know what we're talking about, the unicorns, you might find them with this metallic colored kind of setting for the jewel, or you might find them with like, a pink or a purple. So Moondance had either silver or purple. Sunstar had pink or gold. But the metallic ones were definitely kind of like the rarer ones. So that was always fun to find.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one feature that is on Sunstar is the wings. But for me, it's not, okay, it's not even screen accurate because of the fact that you can remove the saddle when she's not in jewel armor, but then she's just a unicorn. But then in order to make her an alicorn, you have to have her the wings, but the wings come off with the saddle. So it's not like She-Ra here. It's not like when I want to say Pearl Rider. Swiftwind, thank you. Not Tango the Guardians of the Magic. Nope. Too many horses. When Swiftwind changes from a horse into a Pegasus, it seems like it's kind of the same thing that's happening here. I don't know.
Right.
What's your thoughts?
Like the wings on the toy look like magical constructs almost. Whereas, on the show, of course, they're, their own feathers and fibers and, they're part of Sunstar. And it would have been wonderful if they could somehow have engineered her that the wings were like part of her body and not the saddle.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other piece of that is that the wings often, the mechanism by which they come out and they hang outward is kind of fragile. And very often, like, one wing will be droopy and, like, have a very hard time staying up.
Right. Oh, they are very fragile.
Tiny little pins.
Yes, it's very, very fragile. And if you've opened your Sunstar, you may know that whenever you try to change the wing positions, they will often break. And I mean, obviously with age, but even when we had them as kids and they were brand new, they still broke. So.
Right. And clear plastic for toys, for whatever reason, is known to always be brittle and prone to breakage.
Isn't it funny how that works?
You see it all the time with these unicorns, though, in terms of their hooves, the horns. Very often they come with, battle damage Sunstar.
Right, there's often stress cracks and things like that on the
Right.
legs. And you just wonder, is that happening to the rest of the body, but because it's painted, you don't see it? Or is it just the fact that for whatever reason, that paint has created this protective layer? I don't know.
Maybe.
It's
X-ray
interesting.
Sunstar. See what's inside.
There you go. Well, that is one of the prototypes that we have. We can see all the insides
That's
of
true.
it.
You on the archive, you can see the test shot Sunstar in that lurid orange plastic,
Yes. Yes.
where you can see all the fasteners and connectors. And really, the spray does do a really good job of covering up all the kibble inside.
Hmm. Right. There is one little addition that's on Sunstar. Now, when they are non-jewel armor, they are normal horses. But as soon as they become jewel armor, they suddenly get this little crown around their tail. So Sunstar has a pink crown, but it is also something that's seen in the show. So it also has this fun little scroll work around it, but it
Yeah.
is 100% screen accurate. So,
Yeah, it's another cool little detail.
so again, I think that when Greg was designing this, he really made it almost 100% accurate to what she is in the show. I mean, I would say probably, the thing that we've been talking about the most is that all the other jewel armor pieces, when you look at the show, they don't have a lot of detail. They're not very, texturized. They don't have a lot of those small little things that the toys ended up having. But I feel like in the show, the unicorns do have all those details, and it translated really pretty into the actual toy itself.
Oh, definitely. It truly does feel like a deluxe piece of toy.
Right. Right. And we had talked about the rump jewels. The only thing is that in the show, her rump jewels, I think that they range in color. I suppose it also depends on what scene you're looking at.
Yeah, and
So
who
I
was
guess
animating it that day?
right. Yeah. So I guess the purple works on this, but I think that she's supposed to have multicolored, like yellows and purples and blues and greens.
Yeah, I think so.
At least that's what the style guide has.
Yeah.
By the magic of the Sunstone, you're tuned into the Jewel Riders Archive.